Yeah, right? Word meaning acquisition. Thank you very much, Felicia. How am I modeling on this page? Let me hear from someone who's not Felicia. Echo your voice. Thank you, Felicia. You always lead me. Is there a model on this page? No. We'll get to this question and think about, do we need to add one? But currently there isn't one, right?
I wrote I would add one.
Oh, great, great. Okay, great, great, great. How will they practice or check for understanding? Are there any checks for understanding on this page? No? Okay. And usually the best way to see those things is to look for the little icons, right? So I'd be looking for either the speech bubbles for practice or the check mark for check for understanding, or there's a model icon as well. So we're not seeing those icons on that page. So now let's think about in language meaning acquisition. Do I need to add any knowledge, model, or practice? Brianna, you said you had a model. What would you do?
I would just take a book and show kind of the progression, and then have them think, pair, share, and then also try it also with the book. Have them do a partner share where they pick a word or pick a vocabulary word and go through the same progression.
Got it. So the piece where it says like in the days, it'll be introduced.
Yes.
So just like we're going to introduce this word and just kind of go through it quickly.
Kind of a quick gradual release. I would show them first,
Yes.
and then ask them to do the same.
Great. I love that sequence. And that sequence is built into the later pages also. But I love this idea of like, here's what it looks like really quickly. This is something that we'll also go through together. How does that sound? Does that sound great? I love that idea. Thank you so much.
So for this session, we should have right here just to solidify the importance of words vocabulary in the context of it, rather than just sort of without the story or pointing to the story or giving a little explanation first.
Got it.
It was a cute little video. It was supposed to be a prank. We found it on YouTube, where this gal was walking around the city and she'd walk up to somebody and she'd speak in a language. At first their brain, you could watch their brain go, is she even speaking English, but she's not. And she would say one word, like she kept saying tofa to this one guy. He was like, tofa. And she would say tofa. And he was like, time. And then she finally started pointing to like his hair and then making some body language. And then he was like, oh, you're looking at my hair. So it's like a great example of why, without a little bit of background on something or a picture, it's really hard for kids to understand what you're talking about. So we used that to solidify, like sort of as a model.
Yes.
This is what it could look like if you're reading a story about with any background knowledge on a sofa or whatever.
Right. It's kind of like having the adults do the cognitive demand, right? The experience of a child.
Yes.
That's a great strategy. Great. Okay, anything else? What about check for understanding?
There isn't one, but I suppose you could.
There's something about like this piece, the same piece that both Betty and Brianna have highlighted. It seems like an important sequence, and I think it's important that like we're saying that in the language acquisition that the word is being introduced or it's being referenced multiple times. That feels important, like something that we should really stamp, right? So I think I'm going to add a check for understanding after that piece where it says, in addition, students will have the opportunity to use those new words in the context of think, pair, share. Like turn to your partner and just name all of the ways that vocabulary words are used. It's not high up there on Bloom's, but just like a recall question. Okay. And I think because I don't have a video in mind, I think I'm going to do what Brianna said, because I've got my book ready to go anyway, so I can just give them a short, like 30-second clip and indicate that this is something that we'll do together through the rest of the session. Okay. Okay, great, thank you. So to this, I've added a model and a check for understanding, just so I know what folks know as we go into this session together. Thank you so much for your support. Okay, so now we're gonna jump right into it. And I'm not gonna do this page yet. I'm gonna start us off at the very beginning of the session. So I'll do the first 3 pages, and then we'll stop, and then we'll start to plan and practice for our own pages, and then we'll come back and I'll do my 133. Okay, so here we go. I'm gonna put my teacher hat on. And we're starting session 5. Oops. All right, welcome everyone to Seeds of Learning Session 5, Seeds of Book Awareness. I'm going to do a little song for you. Play along with me. Some of you may already know it. Okay, how fast can you go? How fast can you go? We'll take turns saying words we know. How fast can you go? My turn. Quiet. Stretch. Curtain. Idea. Your turn. Ready? Here we go. Quiet. Stretch. Curtain. Idea. Thank you. Okay, how fast can you go? That is part of the repeated read aloud within Seeds. You can use it as it's written into that intervention. You can also use it for lots of different things, but it's one of the 8 big 5 literacy transition songs that we have. So reviewing previous learning, in session 4 yesterday, we stated the key elements that impact a child's language development. We focused on vocabulary and language. We discussed children's progress using the vocabulary and oral language continuum of complexity. We chose teaching strategies to promote vocabulary and oral language development, talked about dual language learning, thematic units, and then we looked at an intervention but did not get a chance to practice it. So today we'll dive a little bit deeper into the same kind of steps that you go through with the vocabulary instruction or intervention that's written into the repeated read aloud. So you'll get a second chance at that. Notice our literacy math rich schedule is completely shaded except for this last piece here. So I would skip this piece because you didn't have a chance to go back to your classroom and try anything out. By the end of today's session, you'll be able to describe the characteristics of an effective read aloud, define different types of books and when they are most appropriately used. You'll demonstrate a day 1 repeated read aloud, and importantly, a rapid automatic naming transition song. How fast can we go? And you'll define concepts about book and print and describe how they can be used within a read aloud. And notice how after today, all of the routines are shaded. So after today, in your classrooms, you are confident that you can include all of these different Seeds routines into your schedule. And if you have some questions about them, that's totally normal. That's what we're here to support you with. So we'll get you on the path. Can I have someone read this quote for me, please?
The single most important activity for building the knowledge required for eventual success in reading is reading aloud to children.
Thank you very much. So imagine that you're as a teacher, you walk into your classroom, it's completely empty. You have no furniture, no nothing, just walls. And a child comes in, and you and this child are in the classroom for a year, like kind of locked in there, which sounds a little bit scary, but there's nothing, right? You have no tools to provide this child, but actually you're allowed to bring one thing to prepare this child for kindergarten. What would that be? A book, absolutely. Yes. This is the single most important thing. It's the single most important tool for doing this exact thing. All right. I'm going to pause us there. Nope, I'm going to keep going. With that in mind, I have my book, okay? It's me and this child, and like I'm just gonna do it. I'm gonna prepare her for kindergarten. You ready? Okay. All right, this is Peter's chair. Peter stretched as high as he could. There, his tall building was finished. Crash down it came. Shh, called his mother. You have to play more quietly. Remember, we have a new baby in the house. He looked into his sister Susie's room. His mother was fussing around the cradle. That's my cradle, he thought, and they painted it pink. Okay. So if I did that every day for a year, how prepared for kindergarten would this child be? Why? Wait, you're moving too fast. You're so excited. Go ahead.
We didn't really even introduce the book that much, we're just like, here's Jim. I mean, we didn't talk
I'm
about the
just-
author, the illustrator,
Okay,
how many words on the title.
okay. Concepts of print.
You didn't read any expression.
Why is that important? Why is it important that we read with expression?
Get them in, bring them in.
And it's, yeah, and it was so funny. I've read Peter's Chair several times, and it almost sounded like an informational text when you were reading it. It didn't sound like a story.
Our brains kind of tune out when it isn't, when it does, when the sound of speech doesn't replicate conversation, right?
Right.
Right, there's probably some science behind that. What else?
You didn't define the vocabulary.
Yeah.
Right, so what if this child came in and like
Cradle. What's
didn't
a
speak the
cradle?
same language as me?
Cradle,
Yeah.
And you barely showed them the picture.
Right.
I barely show some pictures, okay?
No real book connections, no connections for them.
No connections. So how would I establish a connection? So I talk about the characters.
Like, you got a lot of them and not the
Right.
You have a baby in your house.
Exactly.
Ask
Open-ended
questions. Okay.
Yeah. You have a baby in your family.
Right.
Not even your house, your family.
Mhm. Right? Anything else? Yeah. So what would that fall under? That feels like a story structure thing to me. Is that what you would call it? Or comprehension or story elements?
Even making some predictions about the story.
Yeah. Like sometimes comprehension doesn't exactly feel like asking questions. It feels a little bit different. Okay, so this is a pretty comprehensive list. So I actually think when you're thinking about this quote, the single most important activity for building the knowledge required for eventual success in reading is reading aloud to children. You have defined different things that make a read aloud effective. I think what I would add to this quote is the word effectively. Why is that shift important? Discuss that at your table. Why does a read aloud have to be effective? What is the impact of that on children? Go ahead and discuss at your table in 2 minutes.